I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video, we are going to be finding out what's blocking you and how to fix it. Because sometimes you're working really hard and not seeing any results, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And you're actually not doing anything wrong. There's just something in your way. And that goes for anybody who's been more apathetic or just can't seem to find the inspiration or motivation. We're going to find out what's the problem and then fix it so you can grow and prosper and be the best version of yourself. Because sometimes when we're in this state, we get stuck there and we just don't have the energy in order to even care. Like we can't see the bigger picture, that it's like, if I just remove this little bit of pebble, little tiny pebble, you're gonna have a whole stream of a better life. You know what I mean? So let's find the pebble, let's remove it. Or it could be a boulder, we'll figure it out. Anyways, as you can see in front of us, we have 4 groups. I picked my square crystals to give you structure and grounding during this time period. We have in group number 1, pyrite, group number 2, rose quartz, group number 3, red desert jasper, and group number 4, selenite. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group you resonate with most. Now that you have, you can go down to the description where you can skip to your designated group and mark timestamp, but let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out what's blocking you and how to fix it by looking at the cards. We have Petalite. Your other oracle card. Oh, okay. We have Gentle Gardener in reverse. Okay, sorry for my weird reaction. I'm having that reaction because I'll be honest with you, these 2 oracle cards are enough. I can tell you what the problem is. I can tell you how to fix it. But you know me, context clues are everything. And we also already pulled your cards, so let's keep going. Your tarot cards are the Sun card upright, 6 of Swords upright, 6 of Wands in reverse, the Star card upright, and Death card upright. Context clues really are everything. Okay, so let me just look at this real quick to make sure I got everything. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to be, how do I want to do this? I'm going to be telling you, I'll do this card last because this is more of a solution. Okay, so let's start off with the Gentle Gardener in reverse. This says a lot. It's not the only core blockage, but it says a lot about what you're going through. I can see here and in the rest of the spread that you have been making an active effort to fix this solution and problem. You know what I mean? You're not being lazy, you're trying to think positively, you're putting in the work, but it just seems like things aren't clicking. You know what I mean? Why aren't your manifestations coming into reality, so to speak? So when we have the Gentle Gardener oracle card in reverse, this talks about when you go to put your dreams out there in reality, think of them like seeds in a garden. But after you say, this is the thing that I want, I would like this outcome, do you still kind of think you're undeserving? Do you feel a sense of, or a lack of self-worth? This is, in so many terms, like stomping on that seed, not giving it a chance. Maybe not pulling out the weeds, so to speak. Like, think of all these negative belief systems as weeds in your garden. And if they're left unattended, they can grow and become overwhelming to even approach getting rid of them. This card also talks about the ideas of like harboring resentments. Like, has anything happened to you that you haven't fully overcome that still makes you think you're not enough? Like, has someone put you down in the past? Have you been hurt in some kind of way and you're still trying to move forward without completely healing? Either way, it's this idea that you need to be aware of your thoughts. What are you thinking? What are you putting out there? And this is what you're going to get back, essentially. And there's something internally in you, you're not giving attention, that is still believing that the outcome is not going to work out in your favor, or it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work. That's actually a great transition from what's going over here. This is like what do we want to call this, like the metaphor, the diorama or whatever of the example, perfect example of the belief system and this of the spread and everything like this. So over here we have the Sun card. It's easy peasy. Everything's going to work out just fine. We're going to have fun along the way. Everyone's going to benefit from this. It's going to be happy and filled with humor. And there's going to be enough for everybody, including yourself. And there always will be that way. And it's great and it's positive. This is like one area. Your dreams coming true and all the other things I described. Then over here, the cool thing is both confirm you will eventually get there. And there is something inside you that knows you will because you want it so badly. But over here, this shows us it's going to take a long time. It's going to be difficult. You feel like you need to depend on other people. Maybe other people have depended on you. I'm getting more of a vibe that you tend to look towards others in comparison. And when we talk about being aware of your thoughts and like, that's like a form of putting yourself down, of thinking, well, what are they doing? Because clearly I'm not doing it right. I need to look towards what other people are doing. How are they going about creating these things, making these things? Let me do what they're doing. And in general, it's this belief like, I've got to work hard. So then you work hard. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't think it could possibly be easy or just fall into your lap at all. So totally two different belief systems. One's putting yourself down, thinking that you deserve this hard work or obstacles. Another is the potential outcome, kind of like in so many words, we're going to go back to perspective thing that you should be focusing on and like good for affirmations and stuff like that. So this is where it gets really interesting in these last three cards. Six of Wands shows us somebody who feels like they are not getting the credit and the celebration they deserve. Maybe you're putting something out there. Again, we're using just projects as an example. Maybe you're making videos for fun or I don't know, whatever. But when you're finished these things, you put them out there and you show other people, no one's really getting that hyped about them. So in turn, it makes you not only feel that, oh, I guess the thing I put out there isn't enough, but also that, like, what are other people doing? Because they do less work and they get all the results they want. Like what's wrong with me? You know, I should therefore copy them or look at them for like what they're doing because what I'm doing isn't enough. Now, I will give you the happy what do we want to call it, affirmation, that Six of Wands does talk about the idea that just because people aren't celebrating you doesn't mean what you're doing isn't good enough. It's just like it's not clicking. They're not getting it right now, if that makes sense. The idea isn't being translated in a way they can connect to, but that doesn't mean you need to reevaluate. This is actually more of a because, okay, so the way the universe works is sometimes it's like, oh, let's rework the idea. You're almost there, but the idea isn't being expressed in a way that everybody can get down with, if that makes sense. The idea is good, you just need to reformat it. And sometimes it's like, you know, magic and manifestation and like an eternal thing we're putting out there. It's like, let's say you're dating someone and you're like, man, everyone just doesn't like me. Why am I not connecting with anyone? And you're unaware that you're kind of putting off this sort of desperate vibe because the more people reject you, the more you're like, please, first, can someone love me? Can someone? And the second you don't care anymore, it's like everyone wants you because they can see you're someone that they can't possibly achieve. And wow, you don't need them, so they need you. You know what I mean? That type of psychological thing we subconsciously put out there. So this talks about realizing you need to find a sense of celebration and feeling good enough about what you're doing and who you are internally. That goes back to the whole idea of self-worth. What can you do to get excited about your own thing? Do it for you first. Be connected to that. And when you put something out there, it doesn't matter how much reception it gets back or how positive or negative it is. Kind of just put it out there, ignore it, and go throw a little mini party. Give yourself a facial. Oh, I'm so excited I did that thing. Go do something fun. Maybe treat yourself and get yourself a little present or something like that. Whatever it is, start to understand that's not like, you get what I'm saying. I want to catch myself before I go on rambles. Anyways, we also get context clues over here because, see, this is somebody who's working really really hard and is making their main focus and focusing on the fact they're not being celebrated. You know what I mean? Again, we talk about perspective change and confirmation. But then over here is where it keeps getting even more interesting. The star card is somebody who believes in themselves, and they've got like hope that everything's going to be okay. They believe that everything kind of happens for a reason and they're on the right path, and they put up this positive flow and atmosphere in the universe and themselves. But if you notice, this card is right next to the death card. The death card is also very positive, but it's kind of an overwhelming experience. I don't think it's a coincidence that so many people are going through spiritual awakenings at this moment and that you got this. Keep in mind, a lot of your uncomfortabilities you're going through right now could potentially be related to a spiritual awakening. And you're having to face these things in order to overcome them in a really, in a great way so that you can leave this behind you. That's an important thing to note with the death card. The death card is about leaving something behind. It's gone. It's finito. It's never going to be your problem again, which is great. But when we only know one way of approaching a situation, we only have one belief system, it's kind of like the thing we depend on most and can feel overwhelming to let go of. These two things are in the positions they are right now are not lining up. And so that's causing a lot of disheveledness in you. You're feeling like off because of this. Because the star card is giving this hope and attention and thinking, oh, I can solve all my problems just by believing it's going to be better. Yep. No, you know what? It's good. Like it's almost like you're trying to kill it with positivity, and that's not necessarily the solution. You can have hope, you can have faith while you're going through metamorphosis, if you will, little butterflies. Do not think that's definitely a synchronicity. I was going to say, don't think that's a coincidence. But it's like, oh, no, let me just ignore this. I can't go through something so overwhelming and traumatic. And you have to do a flip change. You kind of have to surrender yourself to this and saying, like, okay, we're going to be identifying the problems and we're killing them. We're getting rid of them. We're not going to have them in our, our vibe anymore. So sorry about that. My camera just shut off and was like, you're talking too much. Sorry about that. Anyways, so let's finish off on how to fix this. So one definitely is our major clue over here with the petalite. This is a crystal that gives you the ability to become detached and therefore look at whatever you're going through, your problems, in a more observational manner. This is great for when you're taking things too personally or just too close to be able to have the best judgment. This can be done literally. You can do this over the course of a day or a couple days. It just depends on your attention span and what you want to do. But keep in mind, a little bit of work can go a long way. For like a day or a couple, all day, look at everything as if it's a painting. And you're just kind of looking at it. You don't have any strong opinions about it. You're just looking at it. So like when you look at a chair, you don't think anything other than like, there's that chair. Do the same thing every time you see a situation, you see yourself about to react to that situation, and just kind of detach a little bit. You're going to be there. You're not going to be gone out of your body. This is an outer body experience. You're still going to be present. But the idea is you're going to get into that mindset. And then at the end of the day or a couple days, however long you want to do it, come back to the problems you've been dealing with and look at it from that perspective. But you need a little bit of practice first before you do that. That's going to help a lot. We talked about being aware. When you are detached, it definitely helps you start to be like, I always do that thing. I didn't even realize that isn't really, helping me in any way. Like, how do I express an idea? Does the way I express it imply I am deserving, I can have anything I want? Think about, well, be honest with yourself. Stop thinking of how you think you're going to receive the thing. How would you like to receive it? Would you like to receive it easily? Should it come like you do, put one thing out there, one small thing, and it amplifies? You can do little work and get a lot of results back. Is it positive? Is it filled with, silliness and love, and feels like you get to spend more time enjoying the thing that you've been wanting rather than all the hard work you're putting in? You know what I mean? Take time to find happiness and success within yourself in order to draw other people to you. And then, like, you're basically emanating that like a light, so to speak. And then over here, we want to basically turn the star card towards the death card. You want to understand, okay, I'm going through something. It's rough, but it's meant to happen in order for me to grow. I'm going to become a new version of myself. This part of myself where I had all these belief systems, this is a belief system that I want to be gone forever. I'm leaving it behind, and I'm going to give the act of growing more attention, love, and the belief that everything's going to be okay, rather than trying to repress my problems with positivity. Do you see what I'm saying? So hopefully this was helpful for you. If it was, please let me know in the comments. I love reading them and they're very fun for me. Either way, please give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out what's blocking you and how to fix it by looking at the cards. Your first oracle card is Clear Quartz. If you don't own a crystal, buy clear quartz. Clear quartz is the best because it will hold on to any intention you have and then become that, that crystal, that intention, or it can help amplify other crystals that you want to give more power. So just something, little crystal fun fact. Okay, your other oracle card. All right. Movement in reverse. That's so funny. This happened with the last spread. I can tell you what the problem is, and I can tell you how to fix it with just these 2 oracle cards, but we're not going to stop there. So let's keep looking at the other cards to get more context clues. 4 of Wands upright, 3 of Wands upright, 7 of Pentacles in reverse, 8 of Pentacles upright, and Ace of Swords upright. That's interesting. There's a contradiction going on here, which can probably explain why you've definitely been confused. You've been doing the same thing for a while, and you just feel like you're stuck. Okay, so let me look at everything. Okay, so let's start off with Clear Quartz, which is both the problem and the solution. When this card pops up as an oracle card, it talks about whatever you're focusing on is going to be amplified. And just like we talked about the general meaning of clear quartz. And so if you're mindful of it, you can either use it to your advantage or it can be a problem. So it talks about focus on things like loving yourself and love in general and abundance and these things. Like even if you get like a penny, think, I'm so rich. You know what I mean? Or if one thing works out a little bit in your favor, see, everything always works out for me. I'm so lucky, that kind of thing. But if you're always focusing on, man, things always seem to be really slow. Man, I just keep hitting one bump after the other. Man, I'm always stuck, rather than being like, I have so much time to reevaluate this thing I'm working on. And that helps us transition over here to the movement card in reverse. This is a super frustrating oracle card to get. I could not have more sympathy for you because it is not fun to be in this place in your life. But there is a purpose to it, so we can at least get something from it. This is when you feel like you're walking in circles and you're putting in all this hard effort and work, but you just don't seem to be going anywhere. So it feels very frustrating because you're burning up all this energy and starting to even feel worn out in general. And you're like, man, is all my hard work for nothing kind of thing. But the thing is, this card pops up as a form of, how do I say this? It's kind of like the universe forcing you to be stagnant because there's something you're not looking into. There's 2 different possible situations, and this is a general reading, so I want you to keep both in mind depending on your situation. For some people, you're not moving forward because there's something that you keep it's like a reoccurring problem over and over again, and you refuse to look at it and overcome it and deal with it, whether that be about setting boundaries, or maybe you always have the habit of being more pessimistic. I'm just giving examples here. These aren't the actual problems. And so there's something you're not facing, and so you're kind of being forced by the universe of being like, listen, we're we're dealing with this. I'm not letting you move forward unless you deal with it. But in turn, it's also a blessing because the thing that you can deal with, that you're not dealing with, is actually the core problem that's held you back in many other time periods in your life. So the universe is basically being like, listen, we're going to deal with this once and for your own good. And so you have to look at whatever the problem is and finally heal from it, stand up to it, whatever the situation is. The other situation going on with the movement card is letting you know that there's something that can benefit you right now, but you're overlooking it. So the universe went, wait, whoa. I gave you an opportunity. Let's slow it down for a second. I'm going to make you stay here until you see it. You know what I mean? And so you just got to look around, figure out, okay, what have I already experienced that somehow has an opportunity that I'm not taking advantage of, or has some sort of resource that I could use? Like, what is it? What am I missing that is right in front of my face? Definitely write down every possible person you know, material object, time and space, be really abstract, and just literally write down every possible use for it. That also helps with the idea of where to focus your attention, because if everything has a possibility or an opportunity of benefiting you, then the world is your oyster. You know what I mean? So it's like really works out either way for you. I want to point out this card and this card are directly related, so this is important to keep in mind, and will give you some sense of like catharsis and understanding of your situation too. So over here, we kind of veer off, and I'm glad I pulled more context clues because that wasn't the only solution for you. So where do I want to? Oh my goodness, I'm feeling pulled 8 different ways. These are all kind of like related to this. So let's actually skip to the 7 of Pentacles like I was pointing out before. This is when you keep trying to make something happen, and so you're working on it. This is your day-to-day kind of grind, like going to work every day type of thing. Maybe you're trying to attract a person in your life, so every day, you're checking your dating apps or however you're pursuing it, and you're being consistent, which a lot of people say that it's beneficial in a multitude of ways. But in this case, you're just not seeing any results. So you're like, am I wasting my time? Should I be doing something different? And this is the card that says, yes, you should be. It's not working. It's kind of that idea where they say like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In this particular case, what you're doing isn't helping. So that's why I'm saying they're kind of almost like, I guess they work together, but they're also like contradictive, which I think is interesting. Oh, no, these two are contradictive. These actually make sense. Ignore what I'm saying. Sorry. I'm thinking on a fly. Give me a break. Anyways, so this says, stop doing that. That's one of the reasons why you're stuck. But we already talked about that there's something new you need to be looking into, or something something that's not working for you anymore that you need to solve in order to then leave it behind you, because that's the problem that keeps facing you over and over again. But then we have 8 of Pentacles. This is kind of interesting because this is somebody who, again, this goes back to the whole idea of this where the contradiction comes in, the idea that they're working every day and they're doing it little by little. They're working in small chunks. This is like having this huge, big dream, but be understanding you still need a lot of little time periods to practice. You still need to, like, let's say you want to be this big artist and you want to be selling all this stuff, and you still need to take time every day to sketch and understand like lighting and contrast better or whatever. That's kind of the idea. So on one hand, we have what you're doing now isn't working, but the overall solution is still going to be approaching that sort of mindset. So it's like what you're doing, like the specific, think of this as like, I'm so sorry, I hope these metaphors make sense. I hope I'm not confusing you. It's kind of like, let's say in this version of the picture, you're stacking up a bunch of blue boxes, right? That's not the solution. You want to be stacking up a bunch of pink boxes. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same concept. You just want to change out the particular thing that you're doing for something else. Does that make sense? But here's where this acts as like a really important clue to what's going on over here. So Ace of Swords is great. This talks about where you need, as again, it acts as sort of a solution. We talked about how the mindset you're in, thinking that you're stuck, where are you focusing your attention, how are you viewing the world, the perspective, that kind of thing. So this talks about you needing a better and new mindset, totally different from the old, in order to see things more clearly and be more inspired and have all these ideas. You kind of just need like a refresh, so to speak, which is really hard when you feel so stuck. You know what I mean? One little clue I will say is, if you think of yourself as new and fresh and like you've got good ideas, and every morning you start and be like, today's totally different than before, I'm not even going to acknowledge all the stuff I've been dealing with yesterday, and you just do this every day, you can kind of start to get into that mindset. That's like a little, life hack or trick you can try out. But also, this person is working hard and diligently in order to make this happen. Both of these deal with sense of like logic and practicality when approaching the situation. As in, you're approaching the situation with logic and practicality. You're saying, what can I physically do in this world? How can I think about it? You want to dissect it. This is kind of like an engineer's mind. You know what I mean? How can it fit together? How can it break apart? How can I understand it completely? How can it be a mind puzzle, so to speak? But here is the thing, though, with when we have the Three of Wands. This is somebody who has figured out what it is they're truly interested in. So again, we talk about mindfulness. You have to ask yourself, are you even aware of what you really want? That's something important to keep in mind. First of all, is the core idea what you really want? Do you even want to have that career, that person? Or, understand like what do you want in the eventual outcome, and would that person or idea or career really fulfill that for you? Should you reevaluate that? That's something to think about right there. But either way, this is somebody who's identified it, goes, and then lets other people know, hey, this is what I want. They put it out there, and then this is them getting the reception back and then coming back to them and saying, hey, we heard you want that thing. We are here to help you, so to speak. So this is something to consider. When we feel passionate about something, we have this ultimate goal. It's not logical. It's not something that can be compartmentalized. Are you, and this is why I'm so sorry if this has so many contradictions. Your situation's kind of like a lot of things dualistically happening. That's just the way it is sometimes in real life. While you will be approaching things in like a day-to-day grind in a practical manner, understand that when you put yourself down or try to hyper control or focus on something too much, you're coming from it from this practical logic mindset. But what you are into and what you want to happen doesn't have reason, doesn't have common sense. You just want it, you want it to happen, and you want it to, like, energy can't be held technically. Well, technically it can. You know what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place. So anyways, this is something to keep in mind when you start to put yourself down or overthink things. Be like, I'm trying to handle a situation that is not meant to be handled in that manner. I have to just let it be and accept it and go with it and change to that new sort of mindset. Do you see what I'm saying? View things in that different kind of way when this pops up. And then the last thing that's super important to acknowledge is it looks like so you've been alone dealing with this. One of your problems is actually isolation. It looks like in order to make this thing come into existence, move forward, remove this blockage, have a sense of growth and abundance in your life, is you need to find a community of like-minded people in whatever you're interested in. And keep in mind, you literally can do this anywhere digitally, especially right now. There are groups, there's chat groups, there's tons of social medias and hashtags, and you start to just kind of reach out and communicate back with people and talk to people, and you'll find them. Don't worry, you'll find your tribe of people. And so this is someone saying, hey, I've discovered I am interested in this. I'm setting myself free. I'm viewing the world as possibility of abundance, of happiness. I'm letting the old me leave behind. I'm letting them other people know, and then they're coming to you and helping you out. This can be to like perpetuate that sort of, we talk about clear quartz amplifying that energy. It's like they're amplifying this better energy and mindset you want to be in. This is also super helpful because if you feel stuck, it's hard to say to someone, well, just get out of being stuck. It's like, well, to get out of being stuck means moving forward. I've been moving forward this whole time and I keep going in circles. So don't worry, you don't need to. They'll come to you. Do you see what I'm saying here? So anyways, I hope this reading was helpful and made you excited, and I'm really pumped for you. You're going to be changing a couple things. It's a little abstract because many contradictive and dualistic things are happening at the same time. I hope it all made sense. And it did to me, but I never know sometimes when I'm explaining these things to people. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out what's... Ignore the Pop-Tart crumb. um, let's find out what's blocking you and how to fix it by looking at the cards. Your oracle card, okay, is Citrine. Your second oracle card is Goblins in Reverse. All right, the plot thickens. I am very curious at what's going on over here. Your tarot cards are Six of Wands upright, Five of Wands upright. These are essentially like mirror images of the other ones. Four of Pentacles upright, Seven of Cups in reverse, and the Magician card upright. Well, that actually gives us answers to everything else and much more context, and now makes a lot more sense. Okay, cool. So this is good. Okay, so let me just look at everything to make sure I've got the answers. Okay, so citrine was the first thing that caught me off guard. I want to say before I even begin this, you're going to be pumped, you're going to be excited because this is not the person, or you're not the person I had anticipated to connect with. But that's the beauty of tarot and the universe and how wild everything is. Your problems are super easy and fixable. In fact, actually, you're doing very well. It's just kind of saying like, hey, you're doing so great, but let's keep it going. Your spirit guides are like loud and clear, being like, you've done the work, you're doing great, good for you. You know what I mean? And that's why I was initially caught off guard by the oracle card Citrine. This talks all about joy, and it implies that, again, you've put in the effort to fix and heal long-standing issues or problems. You connect to love and joy easier than before, and now is the time to really just like live in it. You're going to get a lot out of life by emanating this type of feeling, like more happiness and joyful things and abundance are coming your way because you're totally vibrating this frequency right now, which I couldn't be happier for you. But again, that seems totally counterintuitive or the opposite of what we're talking about. It seems like nothing's in your way. But then we get our first kind of hint at what's going on when we have the oracle card of Goblins in reverse. So first off, this talks about a bit of a warning that you're more vulnerable to being manipulated right now than you are at other times in your life. Because in order to be this joyful, this happy, all that jazz, you have to be somebody who is totally a believer that everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like you have to be this vulnerable and trusting in order to feel this type of feeling. And so that makes you more susceptible to other people. Now, this card basically talks about how other people are going to want to make their problems your problems. Often I find this kind of concept pops up when we are such, we're great, we're awesome, vibrant beings. Other people want a piece of that, especially people who live in the shadows. Keep in mind, there's no concept of good or bad. People who live in the shadows or things that live in the shadows aren't inherently bad. We need light and dark. I always want to point that out. But they want to kind of hook onto you, get a piece of that, and maybe even if it's like they're not putting down your dream or your joy, they're just trying to share all of their pain and their bad things going on in their life, and they feel, oh, well, you're light and radiant, maybe you'll, by sharing my feelings and what I'm going through in this way, I'm somehow going to lighten my load. But in fact, they're only perpetuating more of their pain, and they're kind of like dumping it on you. You know what I'm saying? This is about being aware of not taking the world too personally at this time. Definitely separating and cutting those type of people out of your life at the moment, but understanding if those type of situations pop up, again, try to take a detached perspective. Try to see it observationally so it doesn't heavy weigh down your load emotionally, because you're feeling very light and vibrant. And you can still experience these things and thrive, but understand this perspective in order for it to not consume you, essentially, and be aware of these people. But these people is an important thing that keeps popping up in the spread. So I feel like somebody in particular keeps popping up in your life, and they don't feel evil. Now, keep in mind, this is a general reading. That could be the case for you. But for me, I'm strongly getting a vibe that these are well-intentioned people you care about. And because you're so connected to love and joy, you feel for them and you feel for their particular situation. But you're kind of basically being told, like, even if you feel for them and you empathize or you sympathize with them, they're still, you've worked so hard for this. Don't let them get in your way. It sounds kind of callous, but you're not abandoning them. They're just not a part of your journey right now. You know what I mean? They're going to go find their solutions somewhere else, but they're definitely more of a problem to you than a sort of connection. Like, you know how sometimes you connect to people and you go, oh, well, now I understand the world better. This isn't one of those times. You know what I'm saying? So we have that confirmed over here with the Six of Wands and the Five of Wands. Five of Wands lets us give the confirmation that this person is not going to change. They are going to, or a group of people potentially, but I'm getting more of a vibe it's one person, like a close friend or something like that. This person is not going to change. They're just kind of stuck in their ways. They kind of have it very set beliefs, because when we have a Five of Wands, this is like, imagine it's you bringing your perspective and them being their perspective, and nobody's getting anywhere because you just keep butting heads, and people can't let go. There's no compromises being made, no shifts and changes. But the worst part about Five of Wands that I always want to point out is, by engaging with these type of people and in the way they're going to express themselves and handle problems, you're going to keep being enticed and roped back in to interacting with them, but it's only going to just keep being a spiral of feeling like maybe you're getting somewhere and then you're not, but then you feel like you have to engage them again and help them out or correct them or whatever, and it's just this never-ending cycle. And before you know it, you lose that sense of joy and happiness you've worked so hard for, because you kept giving all your attention and focus to this, and it's just kind of like a waste, essentially. But then over here, Six of Wands, this is you. This is Citrine. This is somebody who is killing it. They're celebrating it. People are being drawn to them like crazy. It's really interesting. You actually have 10 different bodies. This definitely is connecting to your radiant body. People just look at you. They're feeling, they can see this subconscious thing you're carrying with you, and therefore attracts more opportunities. This is somebody who easily gets the promotion because they have a strong likability factor. Luck just kind of seems to work out in their way. Things take less effort, and there's more abundance and prosperity for less work, but it's because you've worked so hard to get to that place in your life. So this is something you should be like, this is definitely a time period, I just want to add this on, where you should be celebrating yourself and being like, yeah, I'm so worth it. I'm great. I did earn this. I did deserve this. I am worthy of this. You know what I mean? And this is you being potentially enticed in here, but it's also acting as almost like a bulldozer of joy, being like, I don't have to deal with this, boom, going off to the Magician card. You know what I mean? So now this is some food for thought, again, talking about the idea of solutions and ideas and stuff like that. So the Seven of Cups in reverse is when it feels like you've got all these options, just like the Six of Wands. You're killing it. There's so much potential in the world for ideas and avenues and routes you could go for. And I will mention, this feels less like opportunities are actually be giving to you now, but they're about to be, because of your perspective and feeling like, when you, let's say you watch like a video or something like that, and suddenly you're left being like, oh, I could make this, or I could do this, or I could have this activity, or I could ask my friend this question. You know what I mean? So it's like you're really close on the verge of attracting all of these potential opportunities because of this mindset and the sense of joy and happiness we talked about. But when it's in reverse, this is when it feels like you're being told, hey, this is your one, you've made a decision, you're going with it for better or worse. And it feels like the influence of the friend in the Goblins and the Five of Wands. They're making you think like, I'm your only friend, you have to listen to me. You know, if you're so compassionate, filled with love, of course you'd listen to my problems. And again, it's that sense of trying to suck you in with a certain perspective. When you didn't make that choice, you still have got a ton of options. Don't let them make you think you have. And then we have Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles is incredibly important I want you, out of anything, to pay attention to this and tell yourself this whenever you deal with guilt or worries, as you try to be like, oh, I just like them so much. I feel worried about kicking them out of my life or cutting them off. Four of Pentacles is someone who understands that sometimes it's necessary to be selfish. People use the term selfish in a negative light. It is viewed that you are a bad person if you do things for yourself. But if you believe in the idea of like we're all connected and we're all this like one giant light, we're all one energy kind of thing, you would understand that by helping yourself, you are in turn actually helping the greater picture, everybody else. So not only can you tell yourself that is that you're actually not selfish, but also there's nothing wrong with being like, it doesn't matter if you think I'm a bad person, I'm not a bad person. I'm taking care of myself. And if you want to fight that toxicity with something else, because this is a person that's like unintentionally being toxic, they're not like a malicious person, be like, so it's okay if you think about yourself and make you the focal point in your problems, but I'm not allowed to. Isn't that more selfish on your end than mine? And this is somebody who understands they have a finite amount of resources and they want to pick and choose who they want to give it out to. And they understand when they need to pull away and take care of themselves and that it's for the greater good. You know what I mean? Let's not be silly and unwise and spend everything all at once, or if we feel we can't give it at that point. I'm going to take some time for myself and understand this is what you're trying to throw at me and I ain't going to have it. I'm going to have to pull away from you. But our final confirmation card is more of like a positive omen than a solution, because we already talked about solutions, but this again repeats what's going on in the Six of Wands citrine. It's kind of like a loving, like exciting, empowering message to you. This implies that everything you need and you want, you already have and are. You have the capabilities of manifesting any single thing you want. You have a great understanding. You're coming from a very mature, experienced, intelligent, harmonious, connected to energy, passionate person. You have everything you need. No more, no less. Don't think, well, I'm feeling so good. What if I did that? Don't. You're perfect right now. Go make it all happen because you are in the right element in order to make it happen. And again, this person's trying to make it seem like it's not. That's not the case at all. They're trying to entice you and pull you in. Don't listen to them. Enjoy your joy. Bulldoze over them. It's a trap. Don't get in there. Don't take things too personally. Remember to pull away and be a little detached at times when you need to, because that's just sometimes, it's just the case sometimes. It just is what it is. And just be really proud of yourself and how far you've come. So anyways, if you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4, let's find out what's blocking you and how can we fix it by looking at the cards. We have Obsidian upright, the Peaks of Joy in reverse. Wow. I'm picking up some heavy energy. We have Queen of Swords upright, Queen of Cups upright. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this French press? I am a coffee fiend. Five of Wands upright, the Moon card in reverse, and the Eight of Cups upright. Okay. Okay, so wow. Okay, this is really interesting. So let's first start off with the Peaks of Joy in reverse oracle card. This talks about are we putting our happiness like on the back burner until we receive something? Do you say to yourself, I'll just be happy when, I get this amount of money. I'll just be happy when, I'm with this person or I'm at a particular weight or whatever, your goal is. And this implies like, why are you doing that? Why can't you just experience it now? Why can't you find out what makes you happy and have that now in order to not only attract that thing you want, but it's a self-awareness thing of like, are you always putting what you want in the future away from you? Are you implying that you are not in control of your own happiness? That's where it gets kind of like deep and heavy and interesting when we have obsidian. Obsidian is about reflection and observing the self and looking inwards and saying, like, what do I see? Am I okay with what I see? And then how can I handle that? Because if you don't like what you see, it's about then dealing with it and solving it and fixing it. We can even talk about shadow work for a moment, and I will in a moment, especially when we talk about the moon card in reverse. So let's get to that. But the main thing I see is going on over here. So here's your emotions represented. This emotional balance in the Queen of Cups is when you're able to understand that there's ups and there's downs, and you just kind of ride from one to the next, seeing each thing is not a big deal, and then in turn are always, you understand that you're riding the waves and not consumed by if you don't make, I'm thinking of this like in surfer terms. So, you know how you catch a wave? You're not thinking, oh no, the wave took me. You think, I'm always in the ocean. I'm always going to catch a new wave. So you don't really see because you have that perspective, you don't see the problems, which will still be there, as a big deal at all. And while you do enjoy the good stuff, you don't get locked onto it and think, this is it. This is the only time I'm happy. I'm happy now. And then don't allow other good stuff in your life. You see it as a whole. And so that you're able to feel more at peace because you're not feeling so tossed and turned everywhere. You always experience a sense of hope. And you are able to both see and understand things that are difficult, but not let them consume you or overwhelm you, which is quite a complex thing to just be riding and going in, but you are going to be achieving that. Now, the huge reason, or huge way, or which way do I want to go? Sorry, I'm feeling pulled all over there. I guess we'll start with this. The way you're going to get there is through the Queen of Swords. This is somebody who's brutally honest. You're going to be brutally honest with yourself. Not brutally honest and hurt yourself and say something mean about yourself and criticize yourself. It's more on a kind of like direct, straightforward type of answer. So let's say you say, I do always say to myself, I'll be happy when blank. And instead of saying, oh, I hate this about myself, I can't believe I never got it. I'm so like, I'm not a good person for this or whatever. You would just say to yourself, I do always do that. And I have to acknowledge that I do that and take responsibility that I'm the one doing it. But I also can do something about that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's got a totally different weight emotionally to it, and it's not about criticizing yourself but understanding yourself, because by pointing these things out and being self-aware, you can actually fix the problem. And by doing this, you're gonna kind of iron out these things in your way, essentially, because certain things aren't being acknowledged and aren't being dealt with, but when they will be, it's kind of the last final things that were in your way that were preventing you from being this emotionally balanced person. So by just doing this, by default, you will have this, which is important because it is the very thing. Now that I'm looking at this is very chicken and the egg versus the thing. So if you're like, where do I begin? Just kind of do it all at once. That's the best way to handle these sort of conundrums. But our Five of Wands is really interesting because Five of Wands, now first of all, it can imply like when you're disagreeing with another person, but for me this feels more like a blockage that involves fighting within yourself. Now the Five of Wands, we're going to just take a second to understand it because this will help you understand the type of confliction and feeling all over the place you're dealing with internally, and not only feel like at peace that you're not, you're not crazy, you're going through this, but understand like, of course you're struggling. It makes sense you're struggling. Five of Wands is when you are, so we're going to use somebody else as an example, but it could be yourself, your internal self. You keep going to this other person and you say, hey, I have this idea. And they go, well, I have this idea. And both of you just won't back down. And nobody goes anywhere because you both just keep saying, no, 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 this is how it is, this is how it is. But here's the thing with Five of Wands, a lot of people don't acknowledge. Five of Wands is a situation where you keep being enticed to be pulled back in and explain yourself or defend yourself. And so you keep being pulled back into this never-ending pit of conversation and conflict. And it's super overwhelming because it feels like you never get anywhere. And by the time this is all you know. All you know is the internal conflict within you and the back and forth and not feeling like you're able to fully stick to anything because you can see both sides, but you want to not back down from both. And you're not even sure what's right or wrong, up or down, where to begin or what to do with it. But if you are emotionally balanced, you are able to see the situation as a whole. Maybe both of these things that you're internally conflicted in can exist at the same time, and that by trying to have one take precedence or put one down is actually the problem within itself. But you can't even handle or deal with these things unless you have that sort of like greater sense of knowing and sense of control over your emotions, because again, like we talked about, you're able to see the downs and observe them but not be consumed by them, and you're able to enjoy the ups but not let them be held on a pedestal and not let anything grow or change. You know what I mean? But now we have the Moon card in reverse. This basically talks about self-awareness here. It talks about, again, bringing to light and to the surface things that you need to deal with. But it also talks about the idea of your shadow self. And it's a compliment, I will say, because it implies that you are ready to deal with this version of yourself. Often we hide in the shadows or go wherever we feel is more comfortable because we are afraid of the opposite. And the reason why we're afraid of it is because we aren't even able to identify it. We're like, I'm just not okay with it. Yeah, but how do you know what's going to happen? Well, I don't, but I'm unhappy. Well, so you're afraid because you don't know the outcome and you're worried what's going to happen next. You see what I'm saying? It's like a comfortability. It's like another thing when we talk about being self-aware and the peaks of joy. It's like, well, what's the other outcome that could happen if you did stop doing this? You know what I mean? Now, this is how this subconscious thing that you're working on is going to be brought to the surface. You're going to be dealing with it. You're going to be handling it, which is what we talked about over here. This is like the shadow version of yourself, and you're going to be dealing with it in order to grow and change, and we'll talk about that in one moment. But just little tips and tricks for shadow work. If you're like, what's shadow work? What's the shadow self? This is the part of your emotions that come out. Some people describe them as like the nasty emotions, but it's like, let's say you see someone flirting with your romantic interest, and your first reaction is jealousy. Jealousy would be a shadow self reaction, because your higher self would say oh, of course I'm not bothered because I understand my worth, and I understand that who they are, and it's okay that they are flirting with someone else because that's how they feel and that's how they want to react, and it'll work out however it's going to work out because it's all for the greater good, and I'm okay as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're able to see the whole picture from a more wiser, reasonable perspective, you could say. So you would say, how do I deal with my shadow self in order for it to not consume me and define me? So just simply get a piece of paper, write down that thing that bothers you, your, like, whatever your triggering emotions are, and then break it down line by line. You say, I feel jealous. Next line, you ask yourself, well, why am I jealous? And you say, well, I'm jealous because I think that they'll like them. Next line, why do you think they'll like them and not you? Because I'm not good enough. Well, why do you think you're not good enough? And you go down, down, down deeper until you get to the core issue. Now, the shadow version of yourself should never be snuffed out. It is not a bad thing. Shadow selves and these type of emotions enable us to better understand what is it that we need to fix. Like, it's almost like the helper to say, here's the problem, here are the identifiers. Because you can't just like blanketly be positive and think that's the only solution. I know we talk about light workers all the time. I'm a light worker, but light workers and shadow workers are meant to work together and extremely benefit the other. You know what I mean? You can't just have one thing. And in this case, you're going to be able to face that. You're going to be working on being honest with yourself in order to identify things to get to this emotional state, to work on your shadow self, to deal with this complex emotions, that feeling back and forth, and better understand and accept the duality of yourself. We talk about duality with light and dark. And then this beautifully leads us to Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups is wonderful because this implies that while you will have a sense of peace and be like reflecting and understanding who you are and what it is, you are still going to be leaving some old ways behind at the end of this. And by leaving these things in the past and saying, okay, I'm now going to go on to greener pastures, it's kind of a bit sad in this occasion because you've kind of become so dependent on it, and it's something you really like, you feel it defines you, or you are comfortable with and you know. But it's also about you not only self-improving but opening yourself up to better opportunities, better selves, and sometimes we have to leave the old ways behind, you know what I mean? But it's kind of like a forceful goodbye rather than a sense of like like ego death or something, like the death card or something like that, you know what I mean? And so it's about understanding yourself, accepting that, but you don't take it with you in the future. You're like, okay, I got it now. I have to go see what's going on over here because I have learned from this. I'm not going to carry this with me anymore, essentially. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this reading as much as I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment and subscribe because it helps out the channel like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!